Most people saving for retirement are doing it without knowing what they're actually saving toward. They contribute to their 401k because they know they're supposed to. They watch the balance grow over the years. But if you ask them, what number do you need to hit before you can actually retire? Most couldn't give you a real answer. Retirement is not a number, it's a lifestyle. And your retirement number, the specific portfolio size that funds that lifestyle indefinitely, is something you can calculate. It's not a guess, it's math. And once you know your number, saving for retirement stops being abstract and starts being a defined, achievable goal. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the calculation step by step using a clear example you can follow along with. By the end, you'll know your number, or at least be close enough to start working toward it with purpose. Let's get into it. Your retirement number is the total amount of money you need invested at retirement to generate enough income to cover your expenses for the rest of your life, without running out. The key concept behind it is something called the 4% rule, which we've touched on in earlier videos. Research going back to the 1990s found that a diversified portfolio, roughly 60% stocks and 40% bonds, can sustain annual withdrawals of 4% of its initial balance for at least 30 years across almost every historical market scenario, including recessions and bear markets. The portfolio keeps growing enough in good years to offset the bad ones. That 4% figure is the engine of the entire calculation. It tells us that for every dollar of annual income you need your investments to generate, you need $25 invested. Why 25? Because 4% of 25 equals 1. Your annual withdrawal is 4% of your portfolio. So working backwards, the portfolio needs to be 25 times your annual withdrawal. That relationship, 25 times your annual income need, is the formula we're going to use. Now let's figure out what goes into it. The first step is figuring out how much you'll actually spend each year in retirement. And this is where most people make their first mistake. They assume retirement spending will mirror their current spending. Sometimes it does. Often it doesn't. Some expenses go down in retirement. You're no longer commuting, so transportation costs drop. Work-related clothing and expenses disappear. If your mortgage is paid off, that's a major monthly cost eliminated. Your kids are likely grown and financially independent, removing another significant expense category. Some expenses go up. Healthcare is the big one. People consistently underestimate how much medical costs rise in the years between retirement and Medicare eligibility at 65. And even after Medicare kicks in, premiums, co-pays, and out-of-pocket costs can be substantial. Travel and leisure spending often increases in the early years of retirement when you're healthy and active. And inflation means everything costs more each year you're retired. As a starting point, most financial planners use 70 to 80% of pre-retirement income as a baseline for retirement spending. But your number should be based on your actual planned lifestyle, not a percentage formula. Sit down and estimate what a month looks like. Housing, food, utilities, transportation, healthcare, travel, entertainment, gifts. Build up from real categories. That honest estimate is the foundation of everything that follows. For our example throughout this video, let's use a household that expects to spend $5,000 per month in retirement, $60,000 per year. Keep that number in mind. Here's where many people get a pleasant surprise. You don't need your investments to cover 100% of your retirement expenses. You likely have guaranteed income sources that cover part of it. The biggest one for most people is Social Security. To get your estimated benefit, go to ssa.gov and log into your Social Security account. Your statement there shows your projected monthly benefit at different claiming ages. This is real data based on your actual earnings history, and it's the most accurate estimate you'll find. If you have a pension through an employer, that's another guaranteed income stream to subtract. Rental income, annuity payments, or any other fixed income sources count here too. Subtract your total guaranteed monthly income from your total expected monthly expenses. What remains is the gap, the portion your investment portfolio needs to cover each month. In our example, the household expects $5,000 a month in expenses. Social Security will provide $2,000 a month. The gap is $3,000 per month, or $36,000 per year. That $36,000 is what the portfolio needs to generate annually. Now we apply the formula. The retirement number calculation is simply this. Take your annual gap and multiply by 25. In our example, $36,000 multiplied by 25 equals $900,000. That's the retirement number for this household. A $900,000 portfolio, withdrawing 4% per year, generates $36,000 annually, which combined with $24,000 in Social Security covers the full $60,000 in expected expenses. Your number will be different based on your expenses, your Social Security benefit, any pension income, and your planned lifestyle. But the math works the same way for everyone. Estimate your expenses, subtract your guaranteed income, multiply the gap by 25. Write that number down. That's your target. If calculating your number is making retirement feel more concrete and achievable, drop a like. It helps this channel reach more people who need to go through this exercise. Now, let's talk about how to adjust that number for your specific situation, because one size doesn't fit all. The 25 times formula is a solid baseline, but several factors can push your number higher or lower. Retiring early is the biggest one. The 4% rule was designed around a 30-year retirement. If you retire at 55 instead of 65, you might need your money to last 35 or 40 years. In that case, a more conservative withdrawal rate of 3 to 3.5% is safer, which means multiplying your gap by 28 to 33 instead of 25. Retiring 10 years early could add several $100,000 to your target. Retiring later works in the opposite direction. If you plan to work until 70 or beyond, a shorter expected withdrawal period may allow a slightly higher withdrawal rate. Some planners use 4.5% for very late retirees, which corresponds to a multiplier closer to 22. Delaying retirement also increases your Social Security benefit significantly. Another reason the math often improves considerably when you work a few extra years. Healthcare timing matters too. If you retire before 65, you have a gap in Medicare coverage to plan for. Private health insurance for a couple in their early 60s can run $1,500 to $2,000 per month or more. That cost needs to be factored into your annual expenses until Medicare kicks in. And it can add meaningfully to your retirement number for those bridge years. Finally, if leaving an inheritance is important to you, factor that into your planning. A 4% withdrawal rate is designed to sustain the portfolio, not necessarily to preserve it in full. If you want to leave a specific amount to heirs, you'll need to either reduce your withdrawal rate or build a larger portfolio to start with. Once you know your number, the natural next question is, how close am I? Pull up your current retirement account balances: 401k, IRA, Roth IRA. Any other investment accounts you plan to use for retirement income. Add them up. That's your current position. Now compare it to your retirement number. The difference is your gap, the amount you still need to build between now and retirement. This gap isn't a judgment, it's information. And information is what turns vague financial anxiety into a solvable problem. If the gap feels large, a few things are worth remembering. Time and compounding are still working in your favor. At a 7% average annual return, a portfolio doubles roughly every 10 years. Money you invest today at 50 has 15 years to grow before a typical retirement age of 65. And the strategies we've covered in this channel, maximizing contributions, catch-up contributions after 50, dollar cost averaging, eliminating high-interest debt, all accelerate progress toward that number faster than most people expect. If the gap is smaller than you feared, that's worth acknowledging too. You may be closer to your retirement number than your anxiety has been telling you. And knowing that clearly is far more useful than a vague sense that things are either fine or not fine. Either way, you now have a number, a real target, something to save toward intentionally rather than just hoping the account grows enough by the time you need it. Here's the 4-step formula. 1. Estimate your annual retirement expenses based on your actual planned lifestyle. 2. Subtract your guaranteed income, Social Security, pension, anything fixed. 3. Multiply the remaining gap by 25. That's your retirement number. 4. Adjust upward if you're retiring early, have a healthcare coverage gap, or want to leave an inheritance. And adjust slightly downward if you're working well into your late 60s or beyond. Run those numbers. Write down what you get. Put it somewhere visible. That number is what you're building toward, and every contribution, every catch-up election, every month you stay invested is a step closer to it. If this channel is helping you move from financial uncertainty to a clear, actionable plan, subscribe and like. There's a lot more coming. I'll see you in the next one.